And they're off. So not a whole lot to talk about during escape. Hopefully none of our runners will have any major troubles with them. So kind of use this time to introduce the different runners and talk about their journey through the tournament so far. Up in the top left, we've got ALG Andy. He's the 4th seed coming out of the group stages. He went 3-0 in Group AF, and his best race time was a 1:26.27. His opponent, Keku, is 2-1 out of Group Z with a best time of 1:42.17. So we're going to see, hopefully, a strong performance from Andy. We'll see how well... We'll see how well Keku can keep up with the... You never know in this game. Anything can happen. Our bottom matchup features Gem, who was 2-1 in Group AC, had a best time of 1:29.42, up against Kolthar the Barbarian, who also went 2-1 in Group L with a best time of 1:30.32. So those two, very, very close. Should be an exciting match down on the bottom side. And to kind of clarify, just in case you're unaware, basically, if you're looking at our two races, they have one up in the top two, and one down in the bottom two. Those are our two races. So we'll have two winners coming out of this one match. So again, not a lot happening during the escape. You're just trying your best to react to any luck that the different enemies give you. Moving diagonally is slightly faster than moving cardinally, so they'll try to do that sort of thing. Here you see the runners knocking that blue guard with the key over towards the door so they can pick it up and walk to the door quickly. Just really tiny, tiny optimizations in the beginning of the run. So you see our runners picking up the boomerang here, using it right away to grab that key and get to the end of the room a little faster. There's actually a few different spots where you can pick up the torch in the beginning of the game, and while the lantern is required, it's actually faster to wait to get it afterwards. One of the main reasons for that is you can pick up the boomerang and not have to menu to it in order to use it. So it looks like all of our runners going with the simple 8-slash method on ball and chain guard, nobody having any real problems with it. And we see them picking up the lantern and then also picking up Zelda. So not only is that chest the fastest one to grab the lantern in, it also makes it so that you have your boomerang out instead of the lantern. It's a little nicer to have that out during escape and the beginning of the Eastern. So nothing too crazy happening so far. Andy, Kolthar, Gem all pretty much neck and neck. Keku not far behind at all. Shouldn't really see anything too crazy happen to the rest of the escape. Really, the ball and chain guard's really the only slight spot of worry for anybody. But all of these runners handling it just nice. Nice push there from Andy. Actually got basically right on the pixel that you want to be to start pushing. Saved a little bit of time there. Looks like he is going to pick up that safety heart in the pot, just to be absolutely sure. Keku picking it up as well. And they're moving through the snake room. This is a room that can have a lot of RNG, really mess you up, but nobody gets tripped up too much by it. I think Gem took a little hit, otherwise nothing too bad. Here's another little spot of RNG. There's one rat that has the key you need to move on to the next room. Looking like Andy got pretty good luck. Gem and Colt are not too bad. Keku not too bad as well. You'll see our runners turning right directly after entering this room. That skips one of Zelda's 2 dialogue boxes that she gives you in that room. And nice escape there from Andy. Looks like a 553. Coulthor with a 554. Gem 557. And Keku not far behind with a 602. So pretty good escapes from everybody. I'm guessing they'll all probably take the slight 2 to 3 second detour to pick up the Sanctuary Heart, as it's kind of one of those things where in a race setting, those 2 to 3 seconds probably not going to make the difference, but a death somewhere definitely will. Actually, Andy's going in. Andy's just skipping the Sank Heart, making me look like a fool. Coulthar and Gem both picking it up. So Andy will be 1 heart down to our other runners, but it does save a couple of seconds. So we'll see how that works out for him. So just some basic movement to move up here. You can actually pump along these steps, which saves a little bit of time. I won't pretend to know what pumping is well enough to talk to you about it, but it does save time. Really nothing else. Andy's taken a couple of hits as he's made his way up. That is going to be a little bit of a cause for concern for him, but he isn't in any danger just yet. But Andy, easily the first one into Eastern, Coulthar and Gem not too far behind. Keku about to enter as well. So it is important that you have at least 2 hearts coming up here pretty soon. Andy's going in with 1.5. There is a heart coming up in this next room. We do see a nice little trick where by using precise movement and grabbing and picking up pots and throwing them, you'd actually only spawn 2 of the 4 selfless that are supposed to spawn in that room. And Andy actually, using the boomerang to pick up that heart, there's a glitch. I don't think people know exactly how it works, but you can actually get double the health boost. So Andy got that and actually got 2 hearts instead of just 1 there. So he's back to full health, so he's just fine. But the reason that health is a little bit important is coming up here. The players will be doing something called the boss key skip, where by using damage boosts and iframes instead of fighting all the enemies in a room, they'll get the big key much, much faster. But as I said, it does require you to take some damage, so you do want to have your health at full or very close when you're going into this room. So very nicely executed there by Andy. We'll see how Coulthar and Gem fare. Both of them having absolutely no problems as well. Keku have a little bit of trouble. Ooh, he's going to have to take... Yeah, he's going to have to clear out the room now, unfortunately. Didn't quite stand directly on the spot where the switch is. So here you can kind of see that difference of how much slower it is to go around killing all these enemies. He's also got to take care of this Igor, which he's already thrown the pots. This is going to be quite the time loss for him. Meanwhile, you see the rest of our runners picking up the bow and making quick use of it immediately, heading upstairs. Keku does finally get to that boss key. Ending having a little bit of a nasty ballroom, but gets through it okay. Nice one cycle Igors there for him as well. And then we're moving on to the Armos fight. So now this fight is set up. There's a few different ways to do it where you want to set it up so basically there's one Armos that has 1 health, and you shoot him immediately after killing the second to last one in order to avoid that enraged phase. So Andy does that well. Excuse me. Kolthor also getting it. Looks like Gem is set up for it as well. So nicely done from all 3 of those runners. Andy taking a pretty strong early lead against Keku in the top. Gem and Kolthor still neck and neck in our bottom race. So now our runners will be heading over to pick up the boots from Shahashrala. Boots, one of the really important items in the run, obviously, because they make you go fast. It doesn't save quite as much time as you would think in terms of having the boots versus not having the boots, but it does speed up quite a few rooms, also gives you access to a couple of exclusive glitches that we'll talk about as they come up. And Keku, a little low on arrows, decides to pick up a few extras. I'm not sure if he got quite as many on the pots on the way up or not, but he does have enough to finish off the Armos, so it looks like he's got a good setup for the quick kill as well. So that first glitch I was talking about there is spin speed. You're seeing Gem finish it right there. If you charge up a spin attack and then on the frame after you release it, start a dash, it'll put Link into kind of a weird glitched state. And if you walk directly off of a set of stairs, it puts you at dashing speed, but you're allowed to turn around and corner like that. So it's used on a few different screens. None of them save any major crazy amounts of time, but they all kind of add up throughout the course of the run to save a few seconds. You see Andy doing it again there as he goes to the library and he's going to learn how to read. And with that, our runners will be heading off into Desert. Desert, not a ton of crazy stuff to talk about in that one. There's a lot of wide open rooms you kind of just dash through. But the boss of Desert, probably one of the biggest causes of time gained and lost between runners. I believe it's something like that, Nami Fufu. I want to say it's maybe like 40 to 45 seconds, but that could be a number I'm pulling out of nowhere. But yeah, it's really not as much as you would think. You would think boots would save, crazy amounts of time everywhere, but that really doesn't add up to a whole lot. But obviously you need the boots for a couple of different things in this game, and they do save time, so there's no reason to not get them. Also something I should mention, looks like all of our runners are going for the Tree Rupees strat. You need 110 rupees to enter the first Dark World dungeon, the Palace of Darkness, and there's a couple of different ways to get them early on in the run. The fastest of which is by using Tree Rupees, which is something I'll explain as we get there. And that looks like that's the option all of our runners are taking. I like to see all the different strats that are in this key room. There's a few different strats that allow you to basically get the key by just kind of slightly nudging that torch instead of running into it. And here's some good book spam from Andy. It's always nice to hear that. And he gets good luck with those cannonballs. He's able to dash straight through them and dash straight back. It's good book spam right there. I didn't see how Kolthar fared with the balls, but by him dashing back, looked like he got good luck. Gem getting good luck as well. I can only assume that they're both spamming the book like crazy. We just can't hear them right now. And our runners are actually picking up certain pots in order to regain arrows. You use most of your arrows getting through the Armos Knights, so restocking for the Landmillis fight is pretty important. Arrows are one of those things that throughout the entire run, it's pretty important to try and keep as many available as you can without, you know, going too far out of your way to get some. We see Andy going for a spin speed there. That spin speed saves a very, very small amount of time, as that is a very short screen. But actually, while you're in that glitch state, you don't kind of stutter step before you jump off of a ledge. You'll jump off immediately. So if he would have hit that ledge, he would have jumped straight off. Would have lost a couple of minutes trying to get back there. So that's probably one of the riskiest spin speeds in the entire run, but Andy pulled it off very nicely there. We see Kolthor and Jem both heading into the second half of Desert as well. Keku just grabbing the boss key. He'll be going over to grab the power gloves. We see a couple of key dashes. That's another little trick. Every 4 pixels, Link is lined up so that he'll dash straight through a door and unlock it without bonking into it. So just about every single key door in the game, there's a setup to basically line yourself up onto one of those, 4 pixel intervals in order to dash straight through it. It's one of the really neat tricks to learn. We see Andy heading into the Landmillis fight now. So there are, I think, upwards of 30 different positions where the Landmillis will spawn and 30 different positions that they'll go to. So this fight is all about basically quick reactions, kind of understanding the movement of the worms, and understanding how to get to the spots that you need to get the arrows in. And Andy had an absolutely great fight. Kolthor looking like he's doing pretty well so far. Jem having a little trouble with that opener, so that's going to cost him a little bit. But Kolthor wraps up a nice fight. Jem working his way through. Having a little trouble with some of these patterns. This is definitely not something that he would like to see right now. Meanwhile, on Andy's screen, we'll see another glitch called Fake Flippers. The game checks when you land in water on the second frame whether or not you have the flippers. So you can actually trick the game by doing a screen transition on that first frame to go to the next screen where the game will stop checking whether or not you have flippers. So by lining yourself up just right and moving in the very next frame, you actually can swim through this room without having to have flippers at all. So that trick right there saves about 6 seconds versus the overworld movement. So it's a nice little handy little trick to save just a little bit of time. Maybe we'll see Keku on the Landmillis fight. Looked like a pretty solid start, and not too bad so far. Kolthor also getting fake flippers nice and easy. Keku having a little bit of trouble with that third worm. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 shots left on it, and he does wrap up the fight. So nicely done there. Jem also getting the fake flippers. One thing that you do have to worry about is taking a hit. Ooh, and Jem got very close there. Since the game will recheck if you take a hit whether or not you have flippers, it'll kick you out. But since you didn't jump into the water on that screen, the game doesn't know where to put you, and it can actually put you in a bit of a soft block position. The only thing you can do is save and quit before you press any directions. But since that isn't allowed in this category, there is kind of a penalty set in place so that it doesn't completely kill your run, but does still cost you a lot of time. I believe in the bracket stages you have to re-go back to the fake flipper bush in order to continue your run, as saving and quitting is not allowed in this category. So Andy had a little bit of trouble with dead rocks there. Kolthor making his way around one as well. This Death Mountain screen honestly is probably one of the worst screens to have to deal with. There's so much luck involved, so many cabbages and the dead rocks just making your life miserable. I've seen players show up with full health and end up dying before they reach the top just because of bad luck. So Andy, the first one into the Tower of Hera. We picked up a mirror from the old man after taking him up the mountain. We'll actually see the use of that mirror a couple of times at the beginning of this dungeon, as it takes you back to the beginning of the dungeon without having to walk a little back there. Oh, we see Coulthard going a little early. Did not pick up that key just yet. He's going to have to go back down there, so that's a little bit of a time loss. Nice boom dash there from Andy. Oh, but he steps out of it. So Andy actually had it lined up, and it looks like he's going to go for it again, where he can land on the pegs the instant that they pop up, and that gives him basically infinite iframes. So I'm not sure if he was maybe a little bit too far to the left where he couldn't continue in the room, but now he doesn't really have to do anything. He can just stand here and let the tiles kill themselves. So it doesn't save really any time, but it is a nice little respite from the run where you see Coulthard is having to deal with all these tiles. Andy picking up the big key, and he'll be heading upstairs. Keku just making his way off Death Mountain, going into Harrow. Gem and Coulthard both chilling with some tiles. And there's a lot of trap rooms in this game, but luckily the run doesn't have to go through too many of them. It's really actually nicely laid out that way, where this is probably the most boring room in the game in terms of having to just wait it out. So now on Andy's screen, we'll see him go for a bomb jump. By lining yourself up on certain pixels, the explosion from a bomb will boost you over a hole, and that saves a little bit of time over having to solve the puzzle on the next floor in order to get to the Moon Pearl. I don't believe Andy hit the safety switch. I wouldn't think he would. He's pretty comfortable with this game. Yeah, he did not. We'll see if Coulthard or Jen decide to use it. Moldorm's another fight that has a lot of luck involved in it. You really have to react to the patterns he's giving you. There is some sort of semblance of a strategy with him, but a lot of it's just reacting. Oh, and Andy takes the hit and gets knocked off. So he's going to have to start this entire fight over, and he's got 1 heart left. This is a pretty crucial moment for Andy here. Y'all thought 2 heart Moldorm was scary. What about 1 heart? Coulthard making his way through the Moldorm fight as well. And he does make it through the fight. And it looks like Coulthard is wrapping up Moldorm as well, as Gem is just moving into the fight. We saw one little trick there from Andy where if you hold your sword out and hold against where you would get pushed in, you actually don't get pushed down. So he used that in order to sit on that left edge and not get pushed down the hole again. We see Keku with 2 hearts, but goes past the safety switch. So he's not afraid of Moldorm whatsoever. Gem wrapping up the kill as well. I think Gem made up a little bit of time there, especially with that early mirror from Coulthard. Definitely gave Gem a little bit of chance to catch up, but Coulthard still slightly in the lead here in our bottom race. Andy with a still pretty strong lead in our top race. So now we see the tree rupees strat coming into play. By pulling that tree and grabbing some of the rupees, Andy is setting it up so that after he kills 4 more enemies, he'll pull on another tree that drops rupees, and they'll drop reds. And that will give him the 110 rupees that he needs in order to open up the Palace of Darkness. It's very important, though, that he doesn't take any damage, as that will reset his kill counter. But usually it isn't too much of an issue. As long as you know what you're doing, getting the tree rupees is not too bad. And it does save about 6 to 8 seconds over going the route of Sahasrara rupees or one of the other methods. Oh, we see Keku getting pinned in the corner and does fall down. He's going to have to restart the Moldorm fight. Meanwhile, Andy and Coulthard both picking up the Master Sword Gem not too far behind. Andy letting everybody know how he feels about the light world in the chat. Gem also picking up the Master Sword as Keku wraps up Moldorm. I'm curious to see, we see Andy skipping over the mushroom. I'm not sure if Kolthor or Gem will go for it either. Powder's one of those safeties that is one of the last things people will drop. So I'm interested to see who all picks it up and who decides to leave it. Andy and Kolthor both having no problem with 3 rupees. Andy has plenty of rupees. Kolthor will pick up a few more in Hyrule Castle in order to give him what he needs. You know, it looks like Gem also not having any problems. Does skip over the mushroom as well, so we'll see. Keku might be our only contestant taking powder. But Gem also having no problem with 3 rupees. He'll have plenty of money. Hyrule Castle is a really cool dungeon. It's one that when I first learned this game, I didn't think too much about it. But then once I kind of started learning it, there's a ton of really interesting strats. And this is a dungeon that's really focused on combat. Most rooms you have to either kill a certain enemy or you have to clear the entire screen of enemies in order to progress. And that's not something that's too common throughout the rest of the run. So this is a really different and interesting dungeon to watch people play. So we see Andy using sword beams and a dash to kill those guards. That's actually going to come into play about 40 minutes from now when he enters into Turtle Rock. Maybe not 40 minutes, I don't know. Maybe I'm selling him short. But we see Kolthor actually using a spin attack there. So the difference that happened there is when you dash through an enemy, it won't drop anything. And that fairy that Kolthor just picked up is on a drop table that is shared with the Pokies in Turtle Rock. So most racers will choose to not advance that drop table if they can in order to save that potential fairy for Turtle Rock. So Kolthor will not have that available to him, whereas Andy probably will. There's a few other enemies throughout the game that are all still on that drop table, so it might still pop up. But Andy's giving himself a good shot at getting that fairy later on in Turtle Rock. Meanwhile, we see Keku picking up the Master Sword. He's going to be off to Hyrule Castle. Nice reaction there by Andy. That guard that doesn't have the key either can move up or down or left and right. You don't want him to move to the left, because he'll kind of get in your way of your strat of throwing the pots there. But if you react quickly enough, you can actually avoid hitting him with one of those pots. See Kolthor also getting that left kind of movement, so he's having a little bit more trouble, but uses the boomerang in order to take out the guard. And now Andy's moving on to Aghanim. So Aghanim, one of the biggest sources of RNG in the run. He kind of works. How he works is he has one phase where he'll shoot a shot that you can reflect back at him, and then he has 3 more shots where it's a 50-50 chance to him to fire a shot that you can reflect back at him, or for him to fire some blue balls that do absolutely nothing. And then after that, he'll shoot a streak of lightning that you can't avoid. So you lose 6 seconds for each extra blue ball, and if you get any extra lightning shots, that's another 6 seconds. So you can lose quite a bit of time here if you're unlucky. We see Andy getting a blue ball already. And there's a second one for Andy. I'll try my best to keep up here, but we'll see if I can crack who gets what. There's one for Kolthor. Three for Andy and 2 for Kolthor. One for Gem. A 4th for Andy. Second one there for Gem. And a 3rd one for Gem. Well, that's a 3rd for Kolthor. A 5th for Andy. He's having some bad luck here. 6 for Andy. Another one for Gem and for Kolthor. Aghanim's being very trolly right now. Another one for Gem. I've definitely lost count. We were close though. So Andy's finally out of the fight. Kolthor still getting blue balls. Kolthor with even more. Gem with another one. Kolthor with another one. Wow, this is the most blue balls I've seen in a race by far. Gem getting another one. Oh my goodness. See, I was hoping somebody would get like 2 or 3 so I wouldn't have to worry about it, but all 3 of these guys getting just so many blue balls. So Andy had 7. This might have been 7 for Gem as well. Yeah, that was 7 for Gem. I don't know exactly how many Kolthor got. Probably 6 or 7 as well. $10 billion blue balls combined, yeah. Kolthor had 6, okay. Yeah, like somebody deserves no blue balls. Aghanim's got to be nice to Keku at least, right? Yeah, that's just basic math. 7 plus 7 plus 6 is actually 10 billion. Oh, Keku gets a blue ball already. And 2. Oh my goodness. Meanwhile, in the rest of the run, Andy's picking up the monkey known as Kiki, and we'll be using Kiki, paying Kiki an outrageous price of 110 rupees in order to open up the Palace of Darkness. So Palace of Darkness is a dungeon that you'll see a lot of usage of the mirror, as it's much faster. Instead of picking up a key and then heading back to where that key can unlock, to just work all the way back to the beginning of the dungeon. And another nice thing about this route is in this room right here that Andy's going through, those bombs will respawn every single time that you mirror through the dungeon. So it's a good spot to kind of refill your bombs, as they are pretty important throughout the run, just like arrows. So it looks like Keku escaped with a mere 3 blue balls. That's basically your highest chance is getting 3 because of math. I don't know. There's some complex probability in there or something. But Keku, the only one getting some halfway decent RNG from Aghanim. Now, Andy will be setting up for something called the Hammer Jump. It's a trick that requires 2 pixel-perfect positions in order to skip about 40 seconds of this dungeon. Both the Y pixel of the bomb that Andy's going to place and the Y pixel of Link, where he's going to stand after placing the bomb, are both pixel-perfect. Looks like Andy's got it lined up how he likes. Very nicely done there. Only a couple of buffers. That's a really good Hammer Jump there. So, and he's got the hammer, he's got the key he needs to head down to the basement, and he'll be trying to wrap up Pod very quickly here. We see Kolthor lining up for the Hammer Jump as well. He's having a little bit more trouble getting that first pixel that he likes. Looks like he's going with that one. Meanwhile, Gem lining it up as well. Oh, Kolthor didn't quite have it lined up, so he does take the fall. We'll see if Gem's able to get this. Looks like he's not quite sure about Link's positioning here. And he does get it, so it took him quite a few buffers, but he does take the lead with that by getting it. So Kolthor trying to line it up second time. Looks like he's likes where he's got Link lined up, and very nicely done there. Yeah, that was a lot of buffers there from Gem in order to get Link just in that right position, but it definitely was worth it to get it versus not and having to set it all up again. Andy making his way through the Turtle Siesta very nicely there. And he'll be on to Helmasaur. Helmasaur, probably one of the hardest fights. I think the game kind of expects you to have a little bit more in terms of health available to you here. But a lot of this comes down to Helmasaur's pattern. It takes 17 hits with the hammer in order to break off the mask. And then he has basically 8 HP after that, which you can take either with hammer shots, spin attacks, normal slashes, arrows, even if you want to go that route. But Andy getting a couple of hammer shots in and then slashes him down to get the kill. Did get down into basically one-hit kill range, but gets out of the fight, so very nicely done there. Nice total run from Gem as well, as we see Keku getting a first try hammer jump. It's nicely done there. Kothar having a little bit more of a fun time in the turtle room. Took one hit, but looks like he's out of there. And Gem there with a nice little move. If Helmasaur is firing out fireballs and you take out the mask, it'll actually despawn the fireballs, so... Gem wrapping up the Helmasaur fight. Nicely done there, as Kothar is making his way through it. Kothar looked like he went for a hammer shot there, didn't get it, decides just to release the spin and slash down. Helmasaur gets to the fight nice and easy. So now our runners will kind of be taking a little bit of a break off of what the game kind of intends you to go in terms of dungeons. The last dungeons are numbered 2 through 7, but our runners are actually going to head over to dungeon number 4, which is Thieves' Town. The reasoning for that is the item in that dungeon, the Titan's Mitts, will allow them to get the Tempered Sword, which is the strongest sword they'll get through the run. And obviously, a stronger sword means more damage, so the rest of those dungeons that they're skipping over now will actually go a bit faster because they have the Tempered Sword. And another reason for that, as we see Andy is heading over to pick up the shovel, is it kind of routes in the flute a lot earlier in the run. And the flute, very useful for moving around the overworld since there is no save and quit. The fastest way to move from point A to point B is often to use the flute. So yeah, to give a bit of an update, Andy with a pretty strong lead in our top match, Gem with a slight lead in our bottom match, but still a lot of the game to play. Neither of these races is decided just yet. I love seeing Andy type something in chat and then seeing what happens in the next 10 to 15 seconds. I have an idea of what might be going on here. As we see Keku wrapping up a very nice Helmasaur fight. Oh wow, I actually thought Andy was going to have a little trouble with Usain Bolt there. He did have a little bit of a stumble in the room before that. Oh, then he bonks into... Oh, there it is. There's a bonk into the statue, and then he checks his map to make sure he's still in Hyrule before summoning the bird. Yeah, I thought it was going to be Usain Bolt. That's what I was putting my money on. So we see Kothar and Gem both picking up the flute, while Andy's going to be heading back into the Dark World, into the Village of Outcasts, and heading straight for Thieves' Town. That's true, you know. He's been playing a lot of that combination Link to the Past Super Metroid randomizer. If he tries to flute in SM, that's not going to do anything for him. So, you know, really strong move there to check, make sure he's still in Hyrule. So not a lot going on in the first few rooms of Thieves Town. It's supposed to be a little bit of a confusing maze, but if you know your way through it, it's really easy. Just going to be picking up the big key and then heading up to the second half of the dungeon. Meanwhile, see Kolthor and Gem both heading back into the Dark World, and they'll be entering Thieves Town very shortly. Keku picking up the shovel. So, still a little bit behind, but not too bad. Andy coming up on a room known as the Hellway. There's actually a pixel-perfect position here where you can dash all the way straight up. Looks like Andy's a little bit to the left. But that pixel-perfect alignment also kind of requires you to get some good luck from the Patrick stars in the room as well. So, not too bad. I mean, getting through it without taking any damage is pretty solid, honestly. Most runners will be okay with that. So Andy bombs the ceiling, and he'll be heading down to the basement of Thieves Town next. Gem has taken a few hits already early on in this dungeon. It's a little bit concerning. Hopefully it won't end up too poorly for him, but it's something to be a little bit worried about as he's pretty early on in the dungeon. I wonder if he's going to pick up this heart in this pot right here. That's one that sometimes you can pick up there or leave towards right before the blind fight. Gem picking up right away. It looks like Gem, I'm not quite sure if Gem was lined up perfectly there or not, but did not really like the luck he was getting from the Patrick stars, so cancels out of the God Pixel dash. So Andy picks up the Titan's Mitts and gets out of the room, and he'll be taking his date up to a nice little sunlit dinner. So the blind fight is actually one that if you do the exact same thing, you do the exact script that you're supposed to do, there's really no difference in how the fight plays out. It can get a little tricky if you kind of get off of that script, but I'm guessing most of these runners probably won't have any trouble with this fight. Okay, Andy, a little bit of trouble on that third phase, but nothing too serious. Meanwhile, we see Kolthor and Gem both showing their dates how much they can lift. Keku not far behind, has just entered into the second part of the dungeon. Well, nice Patrick star there from Keku. Gets right in front of the door. Really nothing you can do about that. So Gem will be entering the blind fight with 3 hearts. Kolthor likely to have 4 if he picks up the heart in the pot right before the fight. And he decides just to not even pick it up. He's confident enough with 3. As mentioned, it's pretty much the same fight as long as you don't mess anything up. So Kolthor just completely confident in his blind ability. And we see a really good fight there from Gem. Meanwhile, Andy is rescuing a frog, who's actually going to be turning his sword into the Tempered Sword. See Coulthor wrapping up blind as well, so our bottom race still very neck and neck. I think these two guys have been basically killing bosses at about the exact same time the entire run, so really happy that that race has turned out as good as it looked like it would. Meanwhile, Keku heading down to the basement of Thieves Town. Even though he might know at this point that the other three races all had their dates turned into horrible monsters, he still believes in true love. We also see our runners picking up some money right now. The other kind of rupee check in the run is 500 rupees to have enough money to buy the finger webs, or the flippers. But it's actually, even though it's a lot more than the 110 rupees you need to enter into Palace of Darkness, getting those 500 rupees very, very easy, as there's two different chests here in the Village of Outcasts that have 300 each in them. So that part of the run, really not anything you have to worry about as long as you don't forget one of those chests. We did see Andy go for a fence dash, which I have been told actually warps time and space and sends you back into 1990 when this game was released, but doesn't save that time there. Keku having a little bit of trouble here. I didn't see exactly what happened at the start of the blind fight, but he's having to do a little bit of dancing. But looks like he'll be able to get out of the fight, so that's a good job there. Nice recovery. Andy with a really solid mummy room. Oh, as I say that, he just doesn't quite pull the statue far enough, but otherwise a really solid statue room. Those two mummies can really give you a lot of trouble if you don't move exactly the way you're supposed to. So good job there to avoid most of the difficulty of that room. I jinxed it. I know. As soon as I was see, that's my own fault. I shouldn't have been complimenting Andy. I've never seen that bomb jump set up before. That's really interesting. But hey, whatever works. Andy picks up the fire rod real quick, and he'll be back into the other side. Skull Dungeon, one of those dungeons that likes to lead you to a key that leads you to another key that leads you to another key. So if you know the correct path through the dungeon, it actually is very, very short. You skip a really large chunk of the dungeon itself. Which is great, because most of this dungeon is really awful. So it's great that you don't have to play most of it. Andy firing a shot into the face of the second half of Skull Dungeon just to assert dominance. Meanwhile, we'll see Gem picking up the big key, Coulthor moving into the mummy room, and Keku upgrading his sword. So Andy's going to be slashing that mummy into the spikes, which actually does more damage, which is a really great feature, except for this boss we're coming up on, which is with Mothula. They actually programmed it so that Mothula will take 0 damage from spikes. So you have to actually hit Mothula without hitting him into any spikes. And depending on his pattern, it can be really nasty. Luckily, it gave Andy a very good pattern, stayed away from the spikes, and he was able to take out the fight really, really quickly. Ooh, Coulthor having a little bit of trouble with the fire rod bomb jump there. Must have been just a little bit of pixel too low there to make it. So Keku's got his sword upgraded. Gem's about to head into the second half of Skull. Coulthor right behind him. Oh, I missed. I didn't see if Keku went for the fence dash, or if he got it if he did. Not sure if he's going to save that 8 years. Gem having a little bit of trouble in the room before the drop. Does take a little damage, but how he's been doing so far with boss fights, I don't foresee any problems in this fight. It really is going to depend on how Mothula treats him. And we see Mothula kind of hanging up in that corner, so really nothing Gem can do right now. Just has to kind of dodge around while he waits for his opportunities. And wow, this is a really, really nasty pattern, but Gem able to get those hits in where he can. Very nicely done there. Kolthar also taking a hit off the spikes in a show of solidarity. Keku out of the mummy room, going to be grabbing the big key. See Andy moving up towards the northeast section of the map. I'll be picking up the Quake in the Dark World, then warping straight back to the Light World to pick up the Flippers. This is the first of a couple kind of little, like, overworld shopping that you kind of see to get the items you need to beat the game. Kolthar with a very, very good Mothula fight there. As we see Keku picking up the Fire Rod, Andy grabbing the Quake. Gem with basically about a 40-second lead, as that's about how long all the crystal cutscenes are, so that bottom race still wide open. We need to stay hydrated bot in this chat. I hadn't taken a drink of water the entire time. I didn't know to stay hydrated. But we see Andy buying the Flippers now as Keku heads into the second half of Skull Dungeon. He's at 3.5 hearts, which is a little scary, but hopefully he can make it through just fine. Gem on his way to grab Quake. Kolthar not too far behind. Some very nice lineup there to get the water dashes. The amount of space you can run across is a little bit longer than it looks, so you can actually line that up to save just a little bit of time. Very nicely done there by Andy. Keguman's going down into Mothula with 2.5 hearts. This could get really sketchy. Mothula just not wanting to take damage, but does go down. Shoutouts to Sankheart for saving Keikuman Shoyu on that one. Meanwhile, Andy into Ice Palace. And Ice Palace is going to feature one of the major sequence breaks that we'll see coming up here in a little bit. But to start out, some pretty basic movement throughout the beginning of the dungeon. Nothing too crazy. People will remember the dark days before Stay Hydrated bot was around and streamers died of dehydration all the time. It was a dark era for all of us. Nice water dashing there from Gem as well. Andy does a slick little strat to kill both Stalfos Knights with one bomb. That's probably one of the easiest but best looking strats to do in the game. And he's coming up now on the Ice Palace bomb jump. So this is another... oh, and you know, instead of bomb jumping, Andy's just going to hover over there. So most of us mortals need to use a bomb to boost across that gap. But if you're Andy, you just hover it, easy peasy. But by leaving those pegs up, whereas normally they're supposed to go down, that actually saves you a couple of routes around Ice Palace itself. So, major time save there. We see Gem making his way through the first few rooms of Ice Palace. Kolthar about to enter it. And Keku on his way to Quake. Keku mirroring really quick. Oh, he picked up the mushroom earlier. Did not use it. Okay. I didn't even see that he picked up the mushroom. I thought he'd skip past it. So he's actually going there now. in order to pick up the powder, which the powder is useful to turn anti-fairies and bunny beams into regular fairies. Pretty useful to have to keep your health topped up, especially in some of the later dungeons. We see Andy in the Cold Stare fight. And it looks like he's got it lined up just perfectly. Really textbook fight there. A little scary at the beginning. You need you need full magic to shoot every fire rod shot into the shell to break through Cold Stare. But then after that, you can set it up to kill all 3 puffs very quickly. And so really nicely done there. We see Gem with a successful bomb jump. And Kolthor about to head there himself. Ooh, Kolthor with a little bit of trouble on the Stalfos Night Room. Doesn't knock that one Stalfos in, so he's going to have to play it a little differently here, and he actually doesn't have a lot of bombs to work with. Ooh, and he shot the fire rod on accident. His menu moved. Oh, this is going to be really bad for Kolthor. He's out of bombs. So he can kill this Stalfos Knight, but it's actually going to take quite a lot to do. He's deciding just to mirror out. He's going to reset here. So very costly mistake there from Kolthor. It's going to give Gem a nice little lead heading into the Cold Stare fight. So Gem cracking the shell, and looks like he's got a pretty decent setup to get the puffs in the corner. Very nice fight there from Gem as well. Yeah, this isn't the first time we've seen somebody have some trouble with that Stalfos Night room. It's one of those rooms that, as I said, it's usually not too difficult to go through quickly, so when you do mess it up, it's not something you run into very often, so it can be a little tricky to kind of figure out exactly what you should be doing. Meanwhile, Andy's going to be opening up Swamp Palace. Swamp Palace is the dungeon that's numbered number 2 on the map. So this is a dungeon that you're basically a bit overpowered moving into it. And Kolthor does get through the Stalfos Night Room second time, picks up a couple of bombs to make sure those are tip-top. But Swamp Dungeon, not one that you usually have a lot of troubles in terms of major time losses, but it's kind of a dungeon of 1,000 paper cuts, where there's just little tiny things. There's tons of enemies that just bump into you and cause 1 heart of damage and cause you to kind of break your stride through the dungeon. So it's one that is not too hard to get through well, but very hard to get through optimally. You see Kolthor having trouble with the Ice Palace bomb jump first try. He does have 1 more bomb available. And does get it second try, so he's okay. Making extra careful here that he doesn't fall into this hole again. Meanwhile, Gem making his way down to enter Swamp Palace himself. See, a nice little hammer dash there from Andy. I guess that's one trick I haven't talked about yet. Item dashing, which allows you to use an item and dash on the exact same frame. And basically you do both at the same time. So it's used with the hammer. You can do it with basically any item. Hook dashing is one we'll see a little bit later that has a number of interesting properties to it. I'm a big fan of shovel dashing, personally. I know there's also some bow dashing fans out there. And Keku with a nice little Ice Palace bomb jump there. Playing it safe here, doesn't want to fall into the hole. As we see Kolthor entering into the Cold Stare fight. So gets them nice and tucked away in that corner. And is able to get out of the fight nicely. Oh yeah, that's another good one too. Net dashing is a strong one. So in our top race, Andy has been kind of building a solid lead in throughout every dungeon, really. Just kind of executing slightly better here and there. So you see Keku using that powder right away to top up the health before moving on into Cold Stare, not a bad call. We've seen Gem open up a little bit of a lead over Kolthor, that Stelphos Night Room, really costing Kolthor quite a bit of time. But there's still quite a lot of game left. Good 30 minutes from both of these runners, so there's a lot of space here for Kolthor to make up this time. And nice Cold Stare fight from Keku as well. All of our runners having really solid Cold Stare fights. Keku is actually warp time and space. He's just finished Cold Stare at 38 seconds into the run, so really good pace he's on right now. We see Kolthor down there using the mirror to actually cancel out a block. That's a Japanese 1.0 exclusive glitch. A few of the other ones that I've mentioned are also Japanese 1.0. I guess we haven't mentioned that that's the version they're playing on, is that not only has the faster Japanese text, but also has a couple of exclusive glitches that save a little bit more time. Yeah, maybe that means Keku got that fence dash. Maybe that's what we're seeing here, is the results of that. And it looks like Andy just barely missed out on the zero cycle Argus. That's a very, very difficult strat to execute. You basically kill all of the puffs before Argus has a chance to even swing around at all. You did hear that kind of little swooping noise, which means that Argus did go into one technical cycle. But nonetheless, very nice kill from Andy. See Kolthor whipping up the hammer there. Nicely done. And his gem is down in the basement of his swamp. Just heading over to Argus. See if he grabs anything in the refill room. He's at one bomb. Yeah, so it looks like he's going to pick up the bomb and the arrows there. Not a bad call at all. I'm guessing Kolthor probably will pick up the same. I think Andy picked up arrows but left the bomb. So Gem moving into the Argus fight now. Andy with his second trip up Death Mountain, this time to grab Ether, the other required medallion of the run. And you see, he used the hookshot there in order to put Link into that glitch state to get the speed there. And uses it again on that next set of stairs to get even more speed. It's actually a lot of really cool things going on with the hookshot there. Hookshot has a lot of interesting tech, a lot of interesting things you can do with it. It's a little unfortunate it's got picked up so late in the run, as you kind of missed out on a few of those really fun things. Gem taking out Argus. I didn't quite see the fight too much, but looks like he's through. Andy going to be going down and picking up the Ice Rod as well, which will be used in Turtle Rock to kill off the boss there. And that'll kind of be the end of the shopping for him. He'll just have to clear dungeons. Kolthor has picked up the hookshot. Gem has just finished talking to Chatty Cathy. And Keku About to move into the second part of Swamp. Meanwhile, Andy whistled over to 6 and is going to be heading straight into Misery Mire. It's actually very important that Andy has his sword beams here, as the second room of Mire has a lot going on in it, and having your sword beams is very, very useful there. We'll see what he does with the bird. There's been a hot meme of carrying the bird into the dungeon, but we'll see what Andy elects to go for here. Andy just ignores the bird, lets it be. Gem having a little bit of trouble on Death Mountain, does take 3 hearts of damage. That's a little unfortunate. Let's see what Kolthor picks up in the refill room. Does grab the bomb and the arrows. Gem was looking for a fairy there. Those 4 different cardinal direction bushes actually have a higher chance of spawning a fairy, but unfortunately doesn't get them as well. So, meanwhile, we see Andy making his way through Mire 2. That room that I said the swordman is really important to have, as you want to clear out all of those enemies as quickly as possible. So having sword beams there makes that a lot easier, a lot quicker. We'll see Gem will have to take a little bit of a slower route through the room itself, as he doesn't have his sword beams available. Yeah, if you're wondering why Andy is down a heart, he is not behind, he just skipped the Sank heart at the very beginning. Andy calling for a death to the meme. So Andy using a little bit of space you have after pushing a block to use an item through it to light those torches a little faster. Now he'll be sitting in a nice, like, billion-year cutscene for no reason, where there's a big wall in the next room over that's moving, but you don't see that happen. You just get to hear it. I really don't understand why this cutscene exists, but there you go. So Kolthor wrapping up Argus in the meanwhile. Still a little bit behind Gem here. Gonna have to hope for something crazy to happen in order to make up this time. Keku about through the end of Swamp. Just a couple more rooms before Argus. So there you see Gem using a little bit more of the Fire Rod strats in order to clear enemies quickly. Not too bad of a Mire 2 without having sword beams. You see Keku about to wrap up the Argus fight as Andy makes his way towards the basement of Mire. And gets the nice little 2 Fire Rod shot, then release the spin to get the quick kill on the second phase. Nice use of an item dash there by Andy in order to basically fire the block off from the Cane of Samaria shot and follow that shot up the room to hit the switch. And there's actually a little strat that you might not have seen there from Andy. He actually used the last bomb as an inventory to break open that wall, and what that does is it moves the inventory over to the Fire Rod. So Andy had the Fire Rod open and ready to go for that next room, so saves an entire menu. Really interesting strat there in inventory management. And he'll be heading into the Vitreous fight. Vitreous is another fight where, if done properly, you really don't have to worry about any of the RNG of it. And it looks like Andy is setting up pretty nicely here to kill these eyeballs really quickly. Uses the bow to take out that last one and fires 8 shots into the eyeball. Oh, he actually steps away a little too soon. That was very close. Andy was down to 1 heart, and had he taken a death there, he would have had to done a lot of Mire over again. So a little bit of a scary moment there for Andy. Counts to 7, not 8, but does get the kill. Keku did take some damage, also hoping to find some health in those bushes, but doesn't find any. As we see Gem about to make his way down to the basement of Meyer, whereas Coulthard just entering. Very nice Meyer 2 there from Coulthard. Cleans it up really quickly. So now Andy going to be heading up Death Mountain a third time. This time heading over to Turtle Rock, the last of the Dark World dungeons. And unable to perform the Waffle House drive-thru and having even more trouble with dead rocks, Death Mountain has had Andy's number this entire race. Oh my goodness. Just getting owned every step of the way there. Taking 5 hearts of damage. There is a fairy up at the top of this little room. Now 6 hearts. We'll see if Andy decides to pick it up. Grabbing the boomerang. Like the Dead Rocks know how he feels about him with the boomerang shot. Very nice. Meanwhile, we see Gem with a pretty solid opening there on Vitreous. Does get the kill without the lightning, and he deciding to just roll into Turtle Rock without picking up that fairy. He does have that fairy drop kind of lined up for him as well, so maybe he's relying on that to kind of keep his health just fine. It's really unfortunate that Death Mountain is like one of the absolute worst overworld screens in the game, and it's one of the few ones you go through 3 different times. It's just the worst. So Coulthard about to pick up the Cane of Samaria and head down to the basement, whereas Gem is in the Crystal cutscene. So Gem has a pretty solid lead, as they are both about to head into Turtle Rock shortly. I actually see Coulthard and Keku high-fiving, but they're in that room for different reasons. So Andy using the hook shot to hook over to one of the torches and fall off of that platform a lot faster. Makes that puzzle pretty trivial. And he's down to 2 hearts here. He does get the key in the roller room. We'll see what he does. Looks like he's going to decide just to mirror back. So there's a decent chance Andy could get a fairy here from this pokey, which would put his health at a decent spot again. We'll see how the luck treats him. He does not get the drop, so he's still waiting on that. Chain Chomp Room can be a very, very tricky one, depending on how these guys move. But it looks like they treat him nicely, Andy, with good execution there as well to get through without taking any damage. We see Keku picking up the boss key of Meyer as Coulthard's about to head into Vitreous. He's got plenty of health, so he should have no problem with this fight. And Gem about to enter into Turtle Rock. Coulthard having a little trouble with the opening there of the fight. You kind of have to time it so that you step on the goop at just the right time in order to take the damage from that and not take the damage from the eyeballs. He's pulled out the bow and arrow now to finish up the eyeballs, so a little tricky, but gets through the fight just fine. Meanwhile, Andy's still hunting for that fairy drop from the pokies. He's picked up the big key, but still has a couple of spots where he could pick up that drop. See Gem getting the torch grab as well. Very nicely done. And there's Andy's fairy drop finally. Has a pretty good Poke Room RNG there. Those Pokes can move in one of 4 directions each, so you kind of have to react to one of 16 different possible RNG combinations. So good job there from Andy to clean it up fairly quickly, not exactly as fast as you could, but not bad either. Keku having a little bit of trouble getting that that Canis and Mario block in just the right spot. It's way more finicky than it seems like it should be. And he's still having some problems with this. Meanwhile, Coulthard almost getting Dead Rock there on Death Mountain. Keku, I think he's got the door open now. Now he's got it open for sure. Shoutouts to Canis and Mario blocks. They work really, really, really well. And you're going to be moving on to Laser Bridge. You line yourself up just right in order to dash basically past the laser. Oh, and he bonks there, which is going to make things a little tricky, but good recovery there. It's very difficult to get through that section without taking a hit from the laser, and as the game kind of expects you to have blue mail at this point, those lasers will do 4 hearts of damage, so definitely do not want to take any damage from them. And a nice Cane of Samaria dash to hit 2 switches at once and dash to the end of that little room, and he'll be on to the Trinex fight. We see Gem about to move on to the second half of Turtle Rock, whereas Coulthard is just entering it, so pretty solid lead for Gem still. See Keku filling up on health before entering the Vitreous fight. Meanwhile, Andy with a very solid first phase of Trinex. Looks like he's lining up to get the second phase quickly as well. Very nice fight there from Andy. As Keku wraps up Vitreous, so about an entire Turtle Rock lead for Andy. Andy asking if we can patch Death Mountain out of the game. I think just about everybody would agree with him on that. It's an absolutely awful screen. Coulthard with a pretty solid roller room there, as we see how Gem fares on Laser Bridge. Having a little trouble getting the beetle out of the way, but does eventually do it. Grabs the key nicely, doesn't take any damage. Coulthard having some problems. These chain chomps are not being very kind to him. He does have to push this block and then hit the pegs as well. Oh, and the chain chomp moves right in the right. He's down to half a heart. This is really scary for Coulthard. And this chain chomp will not get away from the chest. Oh my goodness. Really terrible luck there. Coulthard does finally grab the key and get down. Gem having a little bit of trouble with the Trinex fight. Normally you don't want to see that Ice Head fire out a shot to make some of the floor icy, but he is out of the first phase. Oh, takes a big hit there. He's got one more slash, does take out Trinex. I don't believe Coulthard has a fairy drop available to him. I think it was either him or Gem that got it in the Hyrule Castle. I believe it might have been Coulthard, so he's going to be on thin ice for a long time here. We'll see how well he can do. Meanwhile, we see Andy starting his way through Ganon's Tower. Ganon's Tower, a really cool dungeon that kind of challenges you both in the casual sense and in the speedrun in order to kind of use all the tricks and tools available to you in order to progress through it. So it's a really fun dungeon to play, a really fun dungeon to watch as well. So yeah, that 8 bomb drop means that he is a ways away from his fairy drop again, so Coulthard does pick up 1 heart, so he's Basically about the same though. Unfortunately, just about everything in this dungeon will do 2 hearts or 4. So 1 heart not really doing a lot for Kolthor, but maybe he picks up another one along the way that'll help him out. Good usage of the Cane of Samaria though in that room, in Kolthor. As we see Gem unlocking Ganon's tower. Keku's taking a hit here in the roller room. We'll see what he decides to do. Just going to play it really safe here. Doesn't want to take another hit. Not a bad call. And at this point, probably would have been better for him to just mirror out, but he does escape. Andy with a nice Ice Armos kill. Again, you want to avoid that enraged phase. And it gets even trickier when you're sliding around on the ice, but nicely done there. Does pick up the extra 10 arrows. That's a little bit of a safety before heading upstairs into Ganon's tower. Keku taking a little longer trip on the Cane of Samaria block there. Oh, we see Kolthor take a death. I'm not sure exactly where he died or where he's going to end up. Yeah, unfortunately he's back at the beginning of Total Rock, so fairly large time loss there. But Keku having some trouble with the Chain Chomp room. Oh, and Keku takes a death as well. Total Rock is no joke. Nice Cannonball Z there from Andy, reading the cannonballs and then dashing through when he could. And he's entering a phase known as the Gauntlet, which is a series of rooms with enemies that you'll have to kill out. And there's conveyor belts, there's lasers, there's spikes, there's just all sorts of really fun and terrible things that you have to get through in this next section. Other than that last little trip up on the red guy, that was a really solid gauntlet from Andy. And he'll be moving into Landmalus too. Gem wrapping up Ice Armos. Ooh, Andy missing a shot on the second worm there. We'll have to just spin it down. And we'll see Keku on his way to the Turtle Rock Big Key, Gem on his way upstairs, and Kolthor riding the Cane of Samaria through the maze. I'm not sure if Kolthor made it to the safety bomb exit, or if he died before then. I was looking at a different screen at the time. I would have guessed, had he made it to that spot, that he would have taken that safety exit, unless he thought that maybe he was so far behind at that point that he needed to take every risk he could. I'm not sure. Nice torch room there from Andy. You see him picking up this full magic, making sure he doesn't accidentally unload the entire floor here, but made it through just fine. I don't know if we've seen an unloaded 6th floor of Ganon's tower in the tournament. I hope we don't, but it is something that's very, very unfortunate when it does happen. You jumped for the chest first. Okay, thank you. Oh, Keku having a little bit of bad luck. The sword beam didn't hit the switch like he was hoping it would. Takes a hit from the roller for his troubles. And Andy trying to hover over Moldorm 2. Easiest 6 seconds in the game. And he'll be on his way to Aghanim 2. Kolthor having a little trouble with the second phase of Trinex, but does get through it. So he'll be on his way to Ganon's tower as Gem wraps up Moldorm 2. So now Aghanim 2, about the same as Aghanim 1, except there's 2 more clones. The clones will always fire shots that you can reflect into Aghanim. So you'll see most runners trying to kind of line up those shots so that they make sure they hit Aghanim. It looks like Andy's got 5 total hits, and there's the 6th. So very nice Aghanim 2 there from Andy. And he'll be heading into the Ganon fight. Yeah, it's always nice to get 3 hits on Aghanim 2 in a phase. So very, very good Aghanim 2 fight there. So now these first 2 phases of Ganon are set up so that it takes 12 Tempered Swords to make him move on to the next one. And we see Andy getting 1 cycle on the first phase, looking like he's setting up pretty nicely to get the 1-in-1. Takes a hit from the Fire Bat, so he is 1 hit away from death, but he's through a lot of the scary parts in terms of taking damage. Well, he should be okay here. Unless there's any sort of mismovement, basically. He should be okay to not take any damage for the rest of the fight. So now Ganon will start warping across the room, and Andy's going to try to set this up so that he lights the first torch before the second torch goes out. Now that second torch will never go out. And normally you need the silver arrows in order to do any damage to Ganon in this phase, but you can actually time a spin attack at the right time to do damage to him as well. So Andy's needs 12 of those well-timed spin attacks in order to take out Ganon. And you want to try and see 3 for every cycle of the torch. And it looks like Andy's doing a really nice job through that so far. You know, we see Keku wrapping up Trinex, Gem in Aghanim 2, and Kolthor at the beginning of Ganon's tower. Really nice Ganon fight there from Andy. Looks like he's going to be finishing with a very, very high 126 or very low 127. He's got a 126.59 on his splits. Speed Racing TV has him at a 127.02, so congratulations to Andy on his win. Meanwhile, Gem wrapping up Aghanim 2. We're heading down into Ganon. Let's see if Andy wants to hop in here real quick for a talk. Kolthor having a little bit of trouble here with the Ice Armos. It's a fight that once it kind of gets away from you, you just have to kind of take the loss and move on. And he does wrap it up. Gem, meanwhile, in the third phase of Ganon, I almost called him Bowser. I haven't called him Mario race in about 8 years. I don't know why I thought Bowser there. I think we're joined now by Andy.
Hello.
Welcome. Congratulations on the win.
Thanks.
Give a hot shout out to Death Mountain for being the absolute worst screen in the game.
I can't.
I think you have, like every single time I got awful.
Yeah. I can't believe I only lost 25 seconds in Turtle Rock after I decided to rage single boomerang the nice dead rock that I bonked into somehow.
I liked the boomerang strat. That was nice.
Other than that, it was pretty clean, minus the Moldorm fall.
Yeah, the Moldorm fall I think was really the only major mistake that I recall seeing. Some little stuff here and there, but you know, nothing too crazy. All in all, a pretty good run.
I'm pretty upset that I threw away a 17 flat desert though. But what can you do?
Indeed. Gem should be wrapping up the Ganon fight here. I think one more spin should do it. And he does, so very nicely done by Gem. Oh yeah, 7 blue balls. That was a good time. I think everybody got Keku I think got 3. I think you and Gem and Kolthor all got very bad luck from Aghanim there. Gem wrapping up 129.46 on the splits. Speed Racing TV has it at 129.48, so GG to Gem. think in the meanwhile, Jem got a whole bunch of Ganon warps, so that's nice. So as I mentioned at the very beginning of this race, this is actually a dual race between a group that will face off against each other. So you will have Jem in the next round, Andy. Anything you're going to work on? Anything you're going to look at before that race?
Well, Jem knocked me out of the randomizer tournament last fall, so now I get to get my redemption.
Yeah, there's some extra tension on this one.
But it should be fun. Jem's good. Will be a good race.
Keku having a little bit of trouble here in the spike room. Has down to 1 heart, making sure they don't take any damage here. As Coulthor heads up to the 6th floor. Keku going to take the safety room, grab a couple of fairies here. I think we're joined by Jem.
Yep. Oh.
Welcome. Congratulations on your win.
Thanks.
So kind of talk us to the run. What do you think was the biggest, maybe a big blunder or a big, really nicely performed section you'd like to talk about?
Oh, my big blunder? Definitely Lambos. Was so bad.
Yeah, you definitely had a little bit of trouble with land molest. I do remember that one giving you some issues. But otherwise, I feel it was pretty well executed run. I think this was pretty close to your best group time, so
yeah,
not too shabby at all.
Yeah, I think it's 4 seconds slower, so not bad.
So I was just talking with Andy. You two are actually going to be facing off in round 2. So we've got you both here. If we want to hear some smack talk, let's hear it.
Yeah.
I already said that I get to get my redemption for randomizer tournament last fall.
Yep. I'm pretty sure you'll get that. Yeah, like, do me a favor and die on like Cold Stare or something.
That'd be something. That's like my least favorite death. I don't even know what to do. I usually don't continue after that.
Nice. Okay, so definitely die there, please.
Jem, is there any specific spots you think you are going to work on before that race, or are you just going to kind of keep going at it and see what happens?
Well, I'm definitely going to practice Lambolos again.
Sure. I think that's a boss that most people feel you can't practice enough. There's just so much going on in that fight.
Yeah, I've been a bit lazy with that practice a bit lately, so I guess this result was to be expected. But yeah, that's definitely one I want to practice, and yeah, I don't know. Hammer jump, I guess.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
yeah.
You had the messed up hammer jump, but
yeah,
it worked.
Well,
out
I didn't really mess
eventually.
it up, but I had like a billion
it
buffers.
was a lot of buffers in that one. Meanwhile, we see Coulthor in the Ganon fight. I'm not sure if he's got the 1-on-1, but he looks like he's got it here. So he'll be on to the 3rd phase and getting quite a few warps to start out. Meanwhile, Keku on his way up to the 6th floor of Ganon's tower. Take a quick look at the schedule. I know there's a couple more NMG races going on tonight. We've got Feral Pigman versus Solidus. That'll be over on Speed Gaming 4 in about an hour and a half. And then we've also got Walrus Prime versus Pika Pals. That'll be here on this channel at 6 p.m. Eastern. So if you enjoyed this race, there's plenty more NMG action going on. Keku wrapping up Moldorm 2 as Kolthor is getting those spins in on the Ganon 4th phase. We have a question from chat for you, Jem. How did you think about that Ganon fight? I think you got a whole lot of warps.
Oh yes. Yeah, that was messed up. Overall, this one had like really great RNG. Like 7 blue balls and then I don't know, probably close to 90 warps on Ganon.
Yeah. So you see Kolthor has wrapped up Ganon. Well, Keku is making his way through Aghanim 2. Looks like Kolthor's got an official speed racing time of 1:35.52, so GD to Kolthor. I'm not sure if Kolthor is in. I know I've seen you three all typing throughout the race, letting everybody know how you feel about your run. I'm not sure if Kolthor is in Speed Gaming chat or not. We'll see if he is. Let's see if he wants to hop in real quick for an interview as Keku makes his way to the Ganon fight. I'm actually going to bonk over the hole real quick. I think maybe he's heading to grab a fairy real quick before moving in. Yeah, it looks like he's going to top off on health here real quick. Oof, and Keku has taken 3 hits already, and yeah, he's just going to take the quick death, give Ganon a hug, try to talk out their problems. I think he's just going to kind of reset and try the fight again here. So looks like Keku's going to get a second round here at the first phase, and should be able to move into the second phase nicely. Keku taking a 2-2 here. Quite a few warps there right before the last pound, but Keku will be moving into the last phase of Ganon. Has to dodge that Fire Bat. Okay, is still able to get to the torch to activate Torch Clutch, so nicely done there. I think we're joined by Kolthor now. Welcome, Kolthor.
Hey.
Commiserations on the loss.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be happy to pretend that that run never happened.
You completed the video game.
Yeah, in the most awkward, backwards way ever imagined. Oh well.
So one thing I do want to mention, I know it's maybe a bit of a sore spot, but the Stalfos Night Room, did you really know kind of what your next option was when it happened, or was it kind of a bit of a scramble?
It was a complete scramble. I don't know why he didn't die to the bomb I planted right up his butt, but Well,
Yeah, I've seen it happen to a couple other runners, and I think everybody that has been in that situation has said, yeah, I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing there. It was complete just scrambling to figure out what I'm doing.
yeah,
Meanwhile,
my,
we
my
see...
first thought was just mirror out, try again, I'll get
Yeah.
some bombs. I don't know if there's another way to kill them without bombs.
I think you can use maybe the boomerang or maybe sword slashes. There is another way to kill them. I do remember whoever my
Is there?
commentary partner mentioned that there is another way to kill them. So you might have another option there. But we have Keku finishing up with a 140.18 to GG, and I think he's hopped right in here.
Hello.
Welcome, Keku. Commiserations on the loss.
Yep. Did you see that lead I got over Andy?
You were ahead of Andy. It's true. We saw it. You can hang your hat on that.
Yeah.
Were there any spots in the run that you felt really proud of? Any spots you were not so great about? Anything like that?
Not getting that big key skip in Eastern was one of the places where I was really disappointed.
Yeah,
but,
it looked like you just barely missed stepping on the switch that second time in, and that kind of really cost you quite a bit of time there.
And then I was proud of my Ganon fight just now, though, because I've been practicing Ganon without red mail, and that's the first time I did it in a run. So like
nice.
Actual completed run, so I'm like happy about that.
Nice.
But I'm glad I got 3 blue balls out of everybody.
Yeah, everybody else had not as fun of a time with Aghanim.
I had 7. Who how'd everyone else do?
I also got 7.
Yep, so.
Oh, no kidding.
I mean, I guess the game tried to give me a chance, but
yeah, the game was giving me a little bit of an opportunity to get back. Yeah, you guys all, you 3 all entered Aghanim about at the same time, and I was gonna try and keep track of all of them, but you guys were getting so many that I just lost count. It was crazy. I was hoping one of you would get decent luck, so it wouldn't be so bad. But Aghanim was trolling all you guys pretty hard.
So, if in case you guys aren't following Andy, you guys should probably follow Andy.
Follow all of our runners. We got a command for that.
You want to see a lot of Super Metroid.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, yeah.
There's our runners. Make sure to give them all a follow. They're a great time. And I mentioned that earlier. We do have a couple more Link to the Past NMG races tonight. There's also a full schedule of everything on every other Speed Gaming Network. Looks like there's a Link to the Past randomizer, Rockman 2, Wings of V tonight, and some Diddy Kong Racing. So lots of awesome stuff coming up on this series of Speed Gaming Networks.
And then if you guys want to check out any of the past matches from Speed Gaming, any of the Speed Gaming channels, they're all on YouTube, youtube.com/speedgaming. And yeah, I have to plug in, since I'm sort of helping out.
Yeah, that worked. No, it was great. You did well. So I'd like to thank you 4 for the excellent race. Had a lot of fun commentating it. And I think that's going to wrap it up for us. Thanks for watching, everybody, and hope you all have a great day.
GG's, everybody.
GG.
GG.
GG indeed.